Hi, I'm Margot Soltis, and this is Bart's Hollow Corner Studio. I would like to show you today how to make slip for slip trailing. It can be used for making slip that you color to carve, as well as for slip trailing. But today it's just for slip trailing. Let's get started. So here, if you're just doing this from home, taking some of my classes at home, and you have at your disposal only things that will not pottery tools. I'm going to assume that you have clay and a little slip trailing bottle. Then there's some things that you can use from your kitchen. This portion is called things you can steal from your kitchen to live in your pottery space. So to begin with, I like to have a yogurt container. This one is one of the taller ones, and I like the taller ones because for mixing it can get messy. So to start with a taller one is good. And I like to have the lid so that if I decide that I want to do more on another day, then I can put the lid on and it won't evaporate. I also like to have a smaller one because we're going to be sieving, if you have a sieve, into a container. And also if that's the storage container, it should have a lid. So that's those two things. Of course, you need a ball of clay. And I would say another thing that you need is time. So for me, when I'm instructing at home, I like to show people to grab a little bit of their balls of clay. If you're taking my 4-class courses, you'll have 4 balls of clay, and you can steal from each of them, so you end up with an equal amount each week. But I just make a whole bunch of little flat pieces of clay so that it will dry fast, and that will dry overnight. And you'll be able to crush them more easily. So the amount of clay that you're collecting is so that you can fill your applicator bottle probably once. For the projects that I do, you probably won't need more than 1 bottle's worth, if that. So you could just eyeball this and say, okay, well, as a whole, that's not really going to do it, so I'm going to take some more. So that's a judgment on your part, how much you think you'll need. You're just drawing some lines on some like a project, 2 projects this big maybe from my own classes. But if you're in your own studio, then you'll want to judge for yourself what projects you're making and how much you need. I like to have excess, but that's just me. So I make, a fair amount. I just balled that up, so I'm redoing this. So these will sit overnight. I'll come back in the morning and put them into a container. For me, I just have little pieces of clay that I had rolled out, and I didn't need these, and I just dried it up. So it was my sample slabs that I was trying out different stamps on. So those are rolled out thinly, just like your little pieces. So I'm breaking mine up, and when they're sufficiently broken up, and by sufficient I mean small as you can get it, I guess, you can start by using the handle of a paintbrush. Well, I didn't finish going over all the things you might need. Okay, so you'll need water, some water, and if you have it, a sieve. This sieve is from the dollar store, and I bought it because the metal sieve I have has bigger spaces between the holes are bigger. So this one I liked because it had smaller holes. Now, if you're watching this and you think, yeah, but I don't have one, maybe you have an emulsion tool. This is something I have sort of sacrificed. I bought it for 10 bucks on sale and figured if I wreck it, that's okay. And you could also use a whisk in its place. So these are, I would choose in order of preference, this plus a spatula, then this, then this. So I'll go over the rest of that in a minute. So we're breaking these things, this stuff up, and I want to have enough to more than, I'm going to do more than fill. Oh, and the applicator tube that I have, I got from on Amazon, but I'm guessing that you could get the likes of this in a kitchen store. You'll see that it's stuck, which is, I left it like that on purpose. So let's just, while we wait, there's going to be a how to get unstuck portion too. While we wait, I'm going to just plunk it in my water, and it should soften the clay as we are doing other things. So then if you're in your own studio and you have your own supplies, often potters will have one of these. And what this is a Talisman 80 mesh for the size of the holes. So if you compare this to this, this is way finer. You could use 100, but I think that's a little overkill for this purpose. Our job here is going to be to get rid of as many lumps as we can, because we don't want to plug up those applicator tubes. And then you might have, if you're a potter, this is specifically for potting, and it has a slightly bigger hole than what I have in mine, in this little one. I use them both, and they're both just fine. I like them both. You don't need to have both, but you might want to get both just so that you have something finer and something coarser for lines. And we have all this these pieces in here. The finer we can get them now, the better. So I like to use my dibbler tool, but I think that most houses would have a wooden spoon. So to get them finer, one just wants to smash. So I'll do that off screen. So what I have here is finer crumbs than what I started with, and some powder. And what I want to do now is to just pour some water in. You're not trying to cover it at first. You want to have enough in there that it will, well, there you go, I've covered it. I can always pour off a little bit, but it's starting to sizzle. I don't know if you can hear that. That's the air coming out and the water going in. And what's going to happen overnight is that it will slake down. That term means that the particles in the clay will just sort of dissolve. It's a term specifically used for clay, even in the outside world for clay. So I'm going to put that aside, and by the magic of film, I have this other container that has some slip in it. And so now here are the options. If you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. We're going to go through them. So the first option would be the most simple. I'm going to go backwards from what my preferences are. So we're going, if you have the most basic kitchen, just going to add a little water in there, because I'm thinking about the fluidity in there. This is really quite thick. It's hard to show you on video, the thickometer, but let's just say that's pretty gloopy and probably wouldn't fit through the sieve or through the applicator tube. So my job is going to be to whisk it up, and you may want to spend quite a bit of time doing this. I'm looking at it now and seeing that it could use a little bit more water. And the way I can tell that is because that's not going to pour. That's still sticking quite heavily to my finger. This will be my way of expressing it, I guess, all along. So a little bit more water. Then all that needs to happen is for it to sit, and in hours or overnight, that water will some water will rise to the top and you can pour it off. But for the time being, I want to mix it up so that it is a little bit runny. And you can use the spatula to get the stuff out of the corners so you're mixing. So for those of you who are waiting patiently for me to explain what to do with the emulsion blender, I'm not going to do it on screen, but it's just faster than the whisk. So you would just put it in, and here's why I like a tall one so it doesn't splash. You just put it in and get that all mixed up well. If you don't have that at your disposal and you don't have either one of these sieves, that's okay. You can keep on going with the whisk. I'm going to put that aside for now and show you. Here's through the, let's show you the consistency. So it's somewhat runny and somewhat thick. It's not gloopy anymore. I can't pick up a big glob of it, but you can see that I have lumps in there. So if it's at this point and you're using a whisk only, no mesh, no emulsion blender, then you want to keep whisking. This is the one size of mesh. And just a note, you want to make sure that this is cleaned off well, because if you're putting lumps into your mix, it makes no sense. So what we're doing here is pushing this against the bottom, scraping it. Don't let it come over the side until it's all the way through. That was quite easy to go through. Now it would be harder for it to go through the thinner mesh. Just gonna take it off the bottom here and show you that even with my fine dollar store mesh, I've got a few little lumps. I don't know that those would stick in the applicator tube, but they're there and they might cause your work to be a little bit lumpy. So I'm going to do the last one. How am I going to do the last one? Okay, so one more container. There we go. This is my finest mesh, 80. I don't have 100. Some potters do. They're a lot more particular than I am. So this is me pouring my dollar store meshed slip into the 80 mesh. And the same thing goes. You're just working it through, squishing it. What you're doing is squishing the lumps. Until it's best to get it all out of here. Experience has it that these are a pain to clean if you let them dry. So there you go. I don't scrape off with this because this has the lumps in it from here. So if you can get it off with your hand, it's probably the best. Okay, let's see how we did with that last 80 mesh. That's pretty smooth. So that's what I'll be using. But if you're at home and you're doing it this low-tech method, you likely will have some lumps in it, and you'll likely run across a time when your applicator tube is plugged. The first tendency is to put something through it. So if you have one of these slip trailing things, honestly, I think they're designed for the pin tool. So if you have a pin tool, you can push it through and that will get it cleared up usually. My slip might be dry in there too. It's been a while since I've used it. Let me just see. So here's how you load your slip trailing container. You hold it upright, squeeze it, turn it upside down, and suck the slip into it. Pardon the rude noises. And then, where did I put the tube? There we go. If it's still stuck, I'll just take it off and do that again. Yeah, it's still stuck. Still has something stuck in there. Sometimes it's trial and error. I keep mine in a baggie, and I used to keep a pin in it, but I lost the pin and haven't replaced it yet. So you do it in the water, so you're pushing water through it. Could go backwards with this. If I could get that, there we go. There. So that, what just happened there is a good lesson for when you're slip trailing. Always put the slip get the slip down to the mouth of the tube. So that is, I'm just going to do it on here. There, that's a good consistency. We're going to do the same thing with this applicator tube, only it is not like the ones that are made specifically for pottery. This one that I got off of Amazon is meant for something, I don't know what, whatever people want it for. So I fill the lid. I know it's stuck too. I tried. So, and I just push my thumb on, and just the pressure of my thumb on that opening pushes it out. So now I'm clear. And I'm going to do the same thing to load it. Oops, squeeze. I have some in here, so if you're reloading, a good idea is to shake it, because this, I just saw it. It's a thicker consistency than what we're putting on here. I know it. So I'm going to make sure I shake it. So squeeze, turn it upside down, suck some slip up in it. And if you want to fill it right up, good idea is to tap it to get it down, squeeze again until it's coming out, and then suck it up. A little bit of a messy job. If you've got nice nails, try not to worry too much about them, because you're going to get dirty. Okay, here we go with this. Oh, I said to shake it to make the consistency better. So there's my consistency. This is a smaller slip trail than this, and will end up shrinking, by the way. So making your choice on applicator tubes is should be based on that. So then what I liked about these ones that I got off of Amazon is that they were inexpensive. They have a lid, if you will. I take it off while I'm slip trailing, but while I'm storing, I like to have that on so that it doesn't necessarily dry out. Trailing 101. I hope you enjoyed that video, and